it seems like the industry has kind of settled on a new tactic when it comes to like trying to gas people up when it comes to like products they want to sell. Like for the past couple of years, we've seen this like process where everybody comes out and starts shilling some nothing burger game that like nobody's ever heard of before. Like it takes two came out in 2021. We had Stray a while back. We had Astrobot. We had like a Baldur's Gate 3. Hi-Fi Rush is a big one, right? Usually these games come out in the first half of the year, and like immediately like everyone's just like, oh, this is a game of the year contender. This is the greatest thing ever. It's always some like lower budget game from some developer that no one's ever heard of, that nobody cares about, and it almost always ends terribly. Like Astrobot was a really blatant example of it, but like I think the most blatant example to me is what happened to Hi-Fi Rush, where they announced this game. They put it out in January, and everybody immediately said it was like the best game of the year. Never mind that it came out in January, right? Like, oh, Hi-Fi Rush, it's the greatest game ever. There was all this talk about how Microsoft was investing in Tango GameWorks and how it was gonna lead to like this becoming a franchise, and how they were greenlighting new projects and hiring new people. Oh, it was such a huge success story, guys. They shut the studio down. You know, Not even a year later, they shut that thing down. It's like it really just was the most transparent example of what's actually happening here. Like every time these games come crawling out of the woodwork, trying to get people to like talk about them or care about them at all, the reality is that it's just a marketing stunt. It's just some like attempt at gaslighting people into thinking this game is somehow special or worth your attention. You know, it's kind of remarkable. Going into Donkey Kong Bonanza, just how blatantly obvious it is that like Bonanza is just going to completely 100% just wreck Astrobot. Just like the original Donkey Kong Country, like wrecked on Crash Bandicoot back in the day. It's gonna be like a very similar kind of like thing where like Donkey Kong is like this huge phenomenal thing, a huge success story, and you're not gonna see people like address the obvious. Like if Astrobot really was that good and that successful and that popular, it should have fans who would be willing to advocate for it against Donkey Kong, but that just isn't going to happen. Like they're just not going to make the comparison. Like but Donkey Kong Bonanza is going to be better than 2024's Game of the Year, and nobody's going to talk about it. They are just going to brush it under the rug and say it doesn't count because like Bonanza came out in 2025. Like it's just appallingly ridiculous. Like Bonanza very likely won't even get like a major mention at like the Shill Show. Like it's it's going to be really interesting to see how like journos like handle this. But like that's kind of my point. Like when exactly have you ever seen any of these people come out and advocate for a Nintendo game the way they do for these like minor third party developers? Like when has anybody like gotten excited over like Fire Emblem Three Houses or like Splatoon or like Xenoblade Chronicles 3. These major games with these major online followings, right? Like that are way bigger than like any of the meme games that I just brought up. Like Expedition 33, is a nothing burger game that's not going to go anywhere, that's not going to be remembered, that nobody cares for, nobody cares about. It has the most generic, uninspired name I've ever seen. Still have not seen gameplay, don't know anything about it. Why is Expedition 33 getting all this praise and attention when you just have dozens of better games coming out on Nintendo hardware, right? Like, where is all this praise and attention for Mario Kart World? Like, whenever people like complain talk about Mario Kart World at all. It's just to complain about the perfectly reasonable $80 price point, you know. Like nothing about the game itself or its like qualities or like, you know, just how amazing it's gonna be. Like, no, we gotta hype up Expedition 33. Like, it's fake, you know, it's gay, you know, it's just the very definition of astroturfing. And I do think Expedition 33 is a really interesting case where like this thing like lost relevancy before it even really took out got off the ground, right? Um I wasn't even remotely curious about this game, you know? Like that's the thing that gets me about this is that like I saw people tweeting about it and like releasing these statements about like how great it was and I'm just like, "Oh yeah, it's one of these again." You know, exactly the same kind of behavior we saw with On Your Tail or Celeste or just like any of these other meme games of the past decade is just like, oh, all these guys gush about how great the game is online, but they're certainly not playing it. You know, they're certainly not playing other games. You know, like why exactly would I take a gaming YouTuber's opinion seriously? You know, that's kind of my takeaway. Looking at this, looking at the situation, looking at like you know, going into Switch 2 season, like nobody should be talking about like minor releases from like new developers at this point in time, you know. Like people should be like focused on Switch 2, people should be focused on all the great games that are coming out day 1. You know, people should be hyped for the future of that platform, you know, the market leader, Nintendo, you know. I don't have the time, the energy, or like uh, even the desire to look into Expedition 33. Like, I don't care if it's a new studio. Like, I don't care if they're like French or if they're like some former Ubisoft developers. I don't care if it's successful, right? I have so many other games that I would rather play that your game isn't even on my radar. You know, I don't even want to hear about it. Okay, let alone like buy and play it. You know, that's kind of my feeling towards you know, these meme games at this point. You know, it's just I am just so tired of going through this song and dance every couple of months. It feels like, you know, every couple of months there's some game that's supposedly some new uh like genre defining thing, and yet it's just not, you know. Like Helldivers fell off, Baldur's Gate fell off, you know. Like I am sick and tired of the online gaming community not playing video games.